Hey guys, tonight I want to tell you something that's been sitting in my chest for years. It happened on a Thursday night. I remember because the laundry was buzzing in the background, always Thursdays. I had just settled into my old corduroy chair, the one with the frayed armrest and that faint scent of cinnamon from a spill 2 autumns ago. I was texting someone who had once meant a lot to me. We'd been chatting off and on, nothing serious, but familiar enough that it felt warm in that confusing, fragile way middle-aged feelings sometimes do. And then, by mistake, I think I sent her a red heart. One tap, one pixelated little icon that said way more than I meant to. She didn't reply for hours, and those hours stretched, pulled, bent themselves into all the years I'd avoided saying too much to people who meant too much. The worst part, I wasn't even sure if the heart meant something to her. I wasn't even sure if I meant something to her. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there. I always love seeing that. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let me take you into the heart of it all. I'm Mark. I'm 57. I used to be a high school literature teacher, which basically means I spent 25 years talking about metaphors while avoiding a few of my own. I'm retired now. Well, semi-retired. I still grade papers online sometimes. Keeps my brain from turning to mashed potatoes. The woman I sent that heart to, her name's Naomi. And we were almost something. Once, back when people still called each other on the phone. We never dated. Not really. We had this long, slow simmer of a friendship with occasional pauses, long glances, and way too many almosts. I used to think we didn't work out because of timing. Now, I'm not so sure. Maybe we just weren't brave enough. The heart emoji wasn't meant for her. It was a quick reply, muscle memory. I use them a lot, especially now. My daughter, Jules, once told me it's the universal band-aid of texting. Slap a heart on it, and maybe it feels less cold. But with Naomi, that little red shape felt like I dropped a bomb. She responded 4 hours later with a simple. That's when I realized I'd never understand emojis. I sat in my chair, staring at her reply, like it was written in Morse code. What did thumbs up mean? Was it polite dismissal? Genuine acknowledgement? Emotional border patrol, I wanted to ask. I didn't. Instead, I stared at the bubble of my accidental affection and wondered if I could unsend the years I'd never said anything real. My daughter once tried to explain emoji etiquette to me. She said the red heart was serious. The pink double heart meant flirty. The blue heart was platonic but mysterious. There's a yellow one for friendship. And if you really want to confuse someone, send the green one. I told her I'd just stick to punctuation. But the truth is, the emoji wasn't a mistake. It was just honest. Too honest. You ever realize something too late and then try to pretend like you didn't realize it? That was me that night. I told myself it didn't matter. I went back to my laundry, folded a towel that still smelled faintly like her perfume, even though it never actually had. That's the kind of memory tricks my heart likes to play. And here's the part that gnaws at me. Maybe she saw the heart and hoped it was finally me saying something real. Or maybe she saw it and rolled her eyes. Either way, she didn't say, and neither did I. I made a cup of tea, chamomile, added a little honey, not for the taste, but for the ritual. Sat by the window, watched the moon slink past the power lines, and kept telling myself, it was just a heart. Mark, don't make it a thing. Don't make. But of course, I made it a thing. I always make it a thing. It's funny how people talk about emotional repression like it's a bad thing. But when you grow up in a house where crying was for commercials and hugs were handed out on birthdays only, repressing became a second language. So emojis, yeah, they're like emotional training wheels. The red heart was the closest I'd come in years to saying, I miss you. I think about you. I wish we had tried harder. And maybe I'll never get to say that. But that night, I learned something. Sometimes, a mistake is just your heart trying to sneak out. And sometimes, it succeeds. I don't sleep much that night. You'd think a single emoji wouldn't stir the pot this much. But you'd be wrong. For someone like me, who once stared at a sent message for 5 minutes, just to make sure it had a period and not an exclamation point, yeah. The red heart felt like I'd accidentally proposed. Around 3:12 a.m., I give up on sleeping and scroll back through our texts. It's the modern equivalent of flipping through old letters, I guess, except there's no ink, no scent of paper, no hidden tear stains, just bubbles, gray ones and blue ones. And there she is, Naomi in text form. It's funny, the way we texted. We never talked about big things. Never even asked how the other was really doing. We sent recipes, shared bad puns. Sometimes she'd send me a photo of her cat, Winston, usually stuck in some drawer he wasn't supposed to be in. I sent her pictures of my overcooked dinners and the occasional sunset when it didn't look like a metaphor for loneliness. I scroll past our Thanksgiving thread from 2 years ago. She sent a photo of her turkey that looked like it had been rescued from a crime scene. I replied with a picture of my mashed potatoes, shaped like a sad volcano. She wrote, "We make a perfect disaster." I remember staring at that text for 10 minutes. I almost replied with, "Maybe disasters belong together." Instead, I sent a laughing face and said nothing else. That's the thing about Naomi and me. We were always the almost close, almost more, almost honest. In our last call before the text incident, she mentioned she might move to Seattle. Her sister was out there. Better job prospects. I told her it sounded exciting, that she'd love the rain, but inside, it felt like I was letting go of something I never really held. I didn't ask her to stay, and she didn't ask me to care. I tapped the phone screen and realized I've been hovering over her contact photo for minutes. It's her and Winston. He looks smug. She looks tired, but beautiful in that lived-in way. Like she's someone who's cried in bathrooms and danced barefoot in kitchens. I can still hear her laugh. Not the polite one she used with strangers, but the real one that came out sideways when she was caught off guard. It was rare, like a cardinal in winter, and here I am, sitting in a dark kitchen with a cold cup of tea, thinking about a woman I haven't seen in 3 years and a heart emoji I didn't mean to send. Or maybe I did. I open a blank message, start to type. Sorry about the heart. That wasn't for you. Then I delete it. Then I start typing again. Sorry about the heart. But maybe it was. Delete. Then I write hi. Just that. But I don't send it. I save it in drafts, along with a dozen others. It's strange. When we were younger, everything was immediate. You liked someone, you asked them out. You missed someone, you called. Now we draft. We wait. We hover. Somewhere in that waiting space, the heartbeats pile up. I close the phone. Stretch. My back cracks like popcorn. I chuckle. I've officially reached the age where getting up from a chair counts as a workout. Outside, the streetlight flickers like it's arguing with the darkness. I open the fridge even though I'm not hungry. Classic middle-of-the-night move. I settle on a sad-looking yogurt and a leftover meatball. Not together. I have standards. I sit down again. this time on the couch. Winston would have liked this couch. Naomi always said he preferred cushions that smelled like regret, which is either a weird cat thing or a very pointed joke. I think the thing that keeps me up isn't the heart emoji. It's the feeling that I've been too quiet for too long, that maybe we both have. There's something about aging that makes you realize just how loud silence can be. It doesn't scream, it hums, it builds, and eventually it turns into an anthem you didn't mean to write. And Naomi, she's the chorus I keep humming. So I sit there, chewing on a cold meatball, wondering how you tell someone, I never stopped wishing we had tried. And the worst part, I still don't have an answer. The next morning, I wake up with yogurt on my shirt and Winston in my dreams. You ever try to piece together a dream after the fact? It's like chasing fog, slippery and mostly made of nonsense. But I remember this Naomi was there. She was holding a pie, a real one this time, not a metaphor. She didn't say anything, just handed it to me, gave me this look, half affection, half, you're such an idiot, then turned into a seagull and flew off. I'm sure Freud would have a field day with that one. I rubbed my eyes and groaned. My name's Marcus. By the way, should have said that earlier. I'm 57. Technically retired from teaching high school English, although I still correct people's grammar in my head, which probably explains why I'm still single. That. And the fact that I used to wear corduroy blazers unironically. Naomi wasn't a student or a teacher. She was a barista at the coffee shop across from the school. I started going there during my planning period. I told myself it was for the stronger espresso. But let's not kid ourselves. We started with idle chats. I'd make a pun about her name. You know. Naomi spelled backward is I moan. And she'd roll her eyes so hard, I'm surprised they didn't fall out. It was our thing. Sarcastic, safe, and just far enough from the truth. One day, she slid me a coffee cup with no name on it, just a doodle of a little heart. Not red, just blue pen. But still, I looked up, and she was already wiping the counter like it meant nothing. But it didn't mean nothing. I kept that cup longer than I care to admit. Long enough that it got weird. Long enough that I had to pretend I'd used it for a student art project when someone found it in my filing cabinet. And that became our patterned small gestures, buried meanings, and neither of us brave enough to dig them up. I think back to one afternoon, the Thursday before spring break, 2.5 years ago. I had just graded 43 essays on Of Mice and Men, and I was done with everything Steinbeck. Teenagers, and the state of my knees. I dragged myself to her cafe, and she handed me a coffee with a sticky note on the lid. It said, "Be nice to yourself. You deserve better." I never asked what she meant. I just smiled, said thanks, and walked out. I kept that note, too. Sometimes I wonder how many of our lives are built out of near confessions, things we almost said, almost did, love letters we never wrote, goodbyes we never gave. I think Naomi and I lived entirely in that space, which brings me back to now, to this red heart in my overthinking brain. I checked my phone again, irrationally hoping she texted me first. She didn't. Of course not. She's never been the first to break a silence. And I, apparently, am now the kind of man who thinks a cartoon heart at midnight requires a diplomatic response. I decide to go for a walk. Clear my head. There's a park near my place, nothing fancy. Just a winding path. Some ducks. A bench that always smells faintly of soup. I sit there and watch a kid try to feed the ducks French fries. One duck actually eats it and then honks like it has immediate regrets. I chuckle. A woman nearby, probably in her 30s, glances at me and smiles politely. I give her the kind of nod that says, yes, I too remember youth. It's peaceful, almost too peaceful. The kind of quiet where your thoughts start talking back. I think about calling Naomi. Actually calling her. Not texting, not drafting, just dialing. But what would I even say? Hey, remember me? I'm the guy who used to flirt with you via poorly drawn Shakespeare cartoons and never had the guts to say anything real. Or maybe, hey, I sent you a heart by accident, but maybe it wasn't God. No, instead, I just sit. Let the breeze hit my face. Let the ache settle in like an old dog curling up next to you on the couch. And for the first time in a long time, I ask myself something I usually avoid. Was I ever actually in love with her? Or did I just love the version of myself that showed up when she was around? That thought hangs in the air like mist, heavy, indecisive. And just as I'm about to stand up, my phone buzzes. One message from Naomi. It says, hey, about that heart. And just like that, my stomach drops. I stare at that message, just 6 words, and I swear time slows down, like I've hit some kind of emotional molasses. Hey, about that heart, that ellipsis. It's doing heavy emotional lifting right now. She could be teasing. She could be confused. She could be annoyed. Or God help me, she could be about to say something kind. I reread it again and again. Then I do what any grown adult man does in moments of emotional paralysis. I open the fridge and stand there, blankly, like the cheese drawer might contain wisdom. It doesn't. I grab a pickle, not because I want a pickle, but because chewing something delays decision-making. The crunch is uncomfortably loud. The dog from next door barks like I offended his ancestors. I sit back down and reply with the same courage I had when I asked a girl to prom by anonymously mailing her a mixtape with no return address. I type, yeah, that was kind of an accident. Kind of not. Depends on how brave I'm feeling. Then I delete it, then I type again. Was thinking about you. That heart was maybe overdue. Delete. Eventually I settle on could blame muscle memory, but maybe it wasn't. Send. It takes exactly 11 seconds for the panic to hit. My thumb hovers over unsend, but it's too late. iMessage read receipts curse their transparent honesty. Let me know. She's seen it. 3 dots. Disappears. Comes back. Then she replies, I didn't hate it. I exhale through a laugh I didn't know I was holding. It's not a yes. It's not a no. It's Naomi. It's everything. She's always been guarded, gentle, teasing at the edge of real. Now, I'm pacing. I haven't paced in years. My knees aren't built for this anymore. But adrenaline is basically caffeine for the soul. I stop in front of the hallway mirror and catch a glimpse of myself slightly hunched, wearing socks that don't match, holding a pickle like a phone. This is who I am in the heat of emotional combat. I message back, you know, I still have that sticky note you left me. Be nice to yourself. I kept it. 3 dots again. She sends, I was hoping you did. And that does something to me. That sentence. I don't know what exactly. But it opens a little door I'd painted over years ago. So I take a risk. I'm free tomorrow if you want coffee. Same place, it takes longer this time. Long enough that I think maybe I pushed too fast. That maybe I've ruined it by reaching forward instead of staying safely behind the curtain. Finally, she replies. Same time I sit down slowly, like my body's catching up to my heart. I type, yeah, I'll be there. And I just sit for a moment, staring at the screen, letting it all wash over me. That heart I sent, it wasn't meant to be brave. It was just a reflex, a mistake. Maybe, but maybe some mistakes are really just truths in disguise, ones we don't have the language for until they're already out in the world. dressed up in pixels and hope. I go to bed that night without brushing my teeth, not out of laziness, but because I want to preserve the taste of possibility just a little longer. Okay, also laziness. I don't sleep well. My brain is too loud. Every scenario plays out. She shows up and laughs in my face. She shows up and brings someone else. She doesn't show up at all. And then there's the one I don't dare to hope for. She shows up. And she remembers how easy it was to smile at me. By morning, I'm a wreck disguised as a man. I shower, but forget to rinse the shampoo. I change shirts twice, then go back to the first one. I almost wear cologne, and then remember it expired in 2018. The cafe looks the same. They've updated the menu fonts, but the air still smells like burnt hope and almond milk. I get there 10 minutes early, sit at the corner table, tap my fingers, count the cracks in the floor tiles. I keep looking toward the door, trying not to seem like I'm looking toward the door. Then she walks in, and the whole room softens. Same ponytail, same smirk, same brown cardigan with a hole near the cuff. She spots me, lifts her hand in a half wave, and makes her way over. "Hey," she says, sliding into the chair across from me. "Hey," I reply, somehow forgetting how words work. There's a pause, but not the awkward kind. The kind where silence stretches out a chair between you and says, "Sit here with me for a while." I break it with a smile. So, blue pen hearts still mean something. She shrugs, but her eyes are warm. Depends on how brave you're feeling. And I realize something right there. In that moment, maybe texting a heart wasn't the mistake I thought it was. Maybe it was the first honest thing I've done in years. We sit with our hands wrapped around warm mugs. Hers a chai, mine black coffee, because apparently I've given up on joy, and for a few minutes, we just talk about the boring stuff. Work, weather, her new apartment with the world's loudest plumbing, my newly acquired hobby of fixing things that don't need fixing. I bought a plunger the other day, I say, mid-sip, even though nothing's clogged. Just felt like I should be prepared for emotional or literal emergencies. She laughs, and it makes something behind my ribs ache. Then she asks, quietly, "So, what made you send it?" I know exactly what she means. The heart. And there's 1,000 ways I could answer. I could make a joke. I could dodge. But I promised myself this: if I got even one more shot at sitting across from her, I'd try to tell the truth. The version without edits. So I say, because I was thinking about you. Not in a nostalgic way, in a "this still matters to me" way. She doesn't flinch. That's a good sign. I didn't send it to reopen anything, I add. But I also didn't send it by mistake. Naomi nods slowly, stirring her chai like it's some kind of spell. "I thought maybe you were drunk," she says, softly teasing. "Sadly, no. Just deeply sober and tragically sentimental." Another smile, but this one is slower, sadder, like she's weighing memories behind her eyes. "You are always better with words than feelings," she says. That one lands, because it's true. When we were together, I wrote notes, I left sticky memos, I even composed playlists, but I never really said what I was feeling in the moment. Always the next day, always filtered, always safe. Yeah, I admit, still working on that. She looks up at me, and I see it behind the cautious smile and the mug barrier. There's still something open, something not fully shut. "Do you regret how we ended?" she asks. So plainly, it knocks the wind out of me. I don't hesitate. Every day. There it is. No spin, no cushion. I drop it between us like a stone. She nods again. And this time, there's something behind it. A tiny flinch, a breath caught. I wasn't blameless either, she says, after a pause. I wanted you to just know what I needed without me having to ask. I thought I did, I whisper. I thought you did too, she replies. There's a silence again, but it's heavy now. It's holding our shared mistakes. Our timelines that almost synced, but never quite did. Outside the cafe, a dog runs past the window with a bandana around its neck that says emotional support. Naomi notices it too, and smirks. Think they make those for exes, I ask. She chuckles, shaking her head. Pretty sure that's what therapists are for. I take a slow breath, the kind that feels like it's digging through years. Can I ask something kind of selfish, I say. She gestures for me to go on. If I hadn't let things slip, if I'd been more present, more honest, do you think we'd still be us? She doesn't answer right away. Instead, she looks out the window. The reflection of her face in the glass is softer, more worn in than I remember, like a page folded and unfolded too many times. Maybe, she says finally, but maybe we'd have still outgrown each other, or grown into something else. It's not the answer I wanted, but it's real. That night you left, I say quietly, you taped a note to the fridge. I kept it. Her eyes flick to mine. I figured you'd toss it, she says. I read it a lot at first, I confess. Then less, but I never took it down. She bites her lip, like she's deciding whether to say something or not. I wrote 3 versions of that note, she says. One was angry, one was sad, and the one I left, it was the gentlest one. I didn't want to hurt you, even then. Just like that, I feel something shift. Not between us, necessarily, but inside me. I think that's what broke me the most. I say, you were kind, and even in goodbye. Naomi reaches into her bag and pulls out a tiny notebook. One of those little ones you can fit in a coat pocket. She flips to the middle, tears out a page, and hands it to me. Here, she says, a do-over. I open it. On the page, in her same handwriting from years ago, are 6 new words. You're allowed to miss me. 2. I stare at it. A lump catches in my throat. Naomi. I'm not saying this fixes anything, she cuts in, but maybe it gives us a new place to start. Not a clean slate, but a real one. I fold the paper carefully, tuck it into my wallet, where it rests against old receipts and forgotten fortunes. And just before we part ways, standing beside our parked cars, she leans in, not for a kiss, not for a promise, but for a hug that feels like a small reunion in a world full of goodbyes. I'll text you, she says. You better send a heart, I reply. She winks. And for the first time in years, I don't feel confused about what that means. The next morning, I wake up earlier than usual. No alarm. No real reason. Just that strange afterglow of something unresolved starting to breathe again. My apartment feels warmer somehow, though I'm pretty sure it's still the same faulty radiator groaning like it's haunted by the ghost of winters past. I reach for my phone like I always do, out of habit, out of reflex, and there it is. A single message from Naomi. Just a heart emoji. This time, red, full color, no ambiguity. I laugh quietly to myself. The kind of laugh that shakes loose something stuck in your chest. And I send one back, pink, because, well, I'm still me. And that one always felt a little less intense. Baby steps. Then I just lie there for a bit. Phone on my chest. Ceiling staring contest. And I think about how weird it is, this thing we're doing. This almost friendship with an undertow. We both know we're not jumping back into the same river, but maybe we're willing to sit by its edge again, share stories, tossing stones. Later, I walk down to the corner bakery, Same one I used to visit when she lived with me. They still sell those almond croissants that flake apart like a good memory. I buy two, even though I'm alone. Old instincts. I don't text her to come over. I don't even tell her I bought one for her. But I leave it on a plate beside the window anyway, just in case it goes stale by evening. But I leave it out until midnight. I know. Sad. Right. But somehow, it felt good, like honoring a ghost that might still be alive. And in that strange in-between, we begin texting again. Nothing dramatic. No big declarations. Just that show we liked got renewed. I still think pineapple belongs on pizza. You left a sock in my old drawer. I'm keeping it for ransom. We fall back into that rhythm. Familiar. But with training wheels. I smile more during the day. I sleep lighter at night. But of course, not everything is easy. One evening, maybe a week later, she texts me something heavier. Do you think we ever really understood each other? I stare at it for a long time. Long enough for the screen to dim, then go dark. My thumb hovers, then retreats. Because the honest answer, no, I don't think we did. Not then. We loved in translation. She spoke in subtext. I replied with metaphors. We danced around needs like they were sacred fires we couldn't step too close to. Eventually, I think we tried, but I kept assuming, and you kept hoping. That's not the same as understanding. I hit send. Immediately regret it. Then don't. She doesn't reply right away. A full hour passes. I distract myself by alphabetizing my spice rack. Fun fact, I own 5 different types of paprika and can't cook a single Spanish dish. Then the bubble appears. That feels accurate. It's not closure, but it's a thread. I go to bed that night with a strange comfort in my chest. Not because we're fixing things, but because we're finally naming them. There's something deeply human about that. Naming the wound, even if it still hurts. The next day, she sends me a voice note. That's new? I play it with the phone, tucked against my ear like I'm holding a seashell. Her voice says, hey, I don't really know what this is either, but it feels nicer than silence. And damn if that didn't knock something loose in me. Because silence was our last language. The kind that settles into every crack when words give up. So yeah, this is nicer. A week passes, then 2, and we're still, whatever we are. She calls me once while walking home in the rain. I listen mostly to the water hitting her umbrella and her rambling about a bad day. I say very little, just let her speak, and she thanks me for that. For not trying to fix it. That's new too. I used to hate that. She says, you always had a solution. You never just let things suck. Solutions are my comfort zone. I admit, feelings are your thing. I was just the IT guy in the relationship. She laughs. You did try to reboot our love life once? She says, didn't work, but the effort was appreciated. That night, after the call, I dig out an old box from my closet, one of those plain shoe boxes I'd shoved behind luggage and winter coats. Inside, old movie stubs, 2 Polaroids, a letter she wrote but never sent. I'd found it in a drawer months after she moved out. I reread it now. The handwriting is hers, but softer, less certain. It ends with, I hope you still remember my laugh. I hope it doesn't sting. I close the box, leave it by the nightstand this time. Because maybe some memories don't need to be buried, just invited to stay, quietly, like old friends who don't overstay their welcome. It's funny how something as small as a ringtone can change your whole mood. Mine is still that default, one kind of annoying, kind of nostalgic, the sound of normal life, I guess. But when Naomi's name flashes on my screen now, it lands differently. Not like it used to with that rush of adrenaline or gut drop panic, but like a soft knock on a door I didn't know was still unlocked. We talk more now. Not every day, not scheduled, but enough to feel like something is warming up again. Like the ice between us isn't cracking so much as melting. The conversations are strange little maps, short routes, familiar intersections, the occasional pothole. Sometimes we take detours into deeper territory, like when she told me she's seeing someone new. She said it like a confession, like she owed it to me. He's kind, she said. Not funny like you, but kind? And I laughed. Well, the bar for comedy is low if you ever laughed at my chili puns. But inside, I felt this twist. Not jealousy exactly, more like being replaced in a photo. You're still in the frame, but someone's been carefully cut and pasted over your face. She noticed the pause. You okay with that, she asked. I am, I said, and I was. Sort of. Because I knew something now, something I didn't. Back when we were trying so hard to be everything for each other. You can still care deeply for someone and not be meant to hold them forever. It's not tragic. It's just true. And the funny part, after she told me about the guy, we didn't stop talking. In fact, our conversations got easier, lighter. No subtext, no expectations. Just two people letting their guards down. Like the time I told her about my failed attempt to learn guitar during lockdown. 3 months, I said, and all I can play is the intro to Smoke on the Water. Badly, she replied. You should have learned tambourine. Very little pressure, lots of flair. Or the time she confessed she still can't cook rice without Googling the ratio, even though she's 39. Don't tell your mother, she said. She thinks I'm a culinary goddess. Your secret's safe, I promised. As long as you admit instant noodles are a food group. We laugh more now. In a way we didn't when we were trying to make love work. Maybe because we're not trying to be something anymore. We just are. Still, there are quiet moments. One night, I ask her what she misses most about us. She doesn't answer right away. Then she says, you used to hum when you folded laundry. I didn't realize I loved that sound until it wasn't there. That hits me harder than I expect. It's so mundane, so small. And yet those are the details that make up a life. Aren't they? The tiny nothings that feel like everything once they're gone. So I tell her what I miss. You used to label your leftovers in the fridge like a librarian. Pasta, do not touch. Naomi's lunch for Tuesday. I always ignored it, of course. But I miss your handwriting on Tupperware. She laughs. I should have made you sign a food contract. You did, I say. It was emotional and unspoken. Like most of our agreements. That silence after the joke, it hangs. I think about asking her something I haven't had the guts to yet. If I was ever really the person she needed. But I don't. Not yet. Instead, I tell her goodnight. She says it back. And I sit with that question alone. Later that week, I find myself driving past her old apartment. I don't mean to. It's not a stalker thing. It's just muscle memory. A route I took so often that my car still leans that way at intersections. Her windows are dark. I don't even know if she still lives there. I keep driving, but I wonder if we had met now older, softer, wiser, would we have made it? Then again, maybe we needed the heartbreak to find this version of us, the honest one, the quieter one. I think about texting her that thought. I don't. Instead, I scroll back through our old messages, and I find one from 4 years ago that I never answered. One of those throwaway texts you mean to respond to, but forget. It just says, I miss the way you look at me, but I'm not looking. I type a reply. Late? Sure. But maybe some messages don't expire. I still do. I don't send it. I save it in notes, because even now, even after all this growth and clarity, some things still feel too raw to hand over. I fall asleep that night thinking about how close two people can stay without being together, and how sometimes that closeness is the most honest kind of love. I wake the next morning with that familiar ache behind my eyes, the kind that's not from sleep, but from dreams that feel too close to real. In it, Naomi and I were laughing over burnt pancakes. She dropped one on the floor, tried to 5-second rule it, and I tackled her in mock protest. We landed on the kitchen tiles in a heap, breathless and happy. It's stupid how real it felt, and how disappointed I am to find my cold. Crumpled sheets instead of her hair spilling across my chest. But life doesn't care about dreams. There's laundry to do, emails to answer, and a fridge that contains one sad lemon and a suspicious yogurt. Adulting, the never-ending sequel. I do something reckless. I text her. Me, I had a dream we were cooking pancakes. You dropped one. I made a heroic save. You're welcome. She replies 10 minutes later. Naomi lies. You always let the food burn while over-explaining your jokes. Me rude. Accurate. Still offended. It's dumb. But that text exchange carries me through the rest of my day. And I hate that. I hate how little it takes to feel lifted, and how long the crash lasts after that night. I open a file I haven't touched in years, my what if folder. Poems, songs, voice memos I recorded when we were unraveling. Stuff I never sent her because I didn't want to seem weak, or worse, desperate. There's one voice note from the night she left. I sound hollow in it, like my voice got stuck in a hallway and couldn't find the exit. I don't hate you, I'd said. I just don't know where to put all this love. I remember recording it at 2:13 a.m. after watching the blinking Wi-Fi light on the router for an hour straight. Somehow, that little dot had become my therapist. Now, years later, I don't delete the file, but I don't listen to it again either. I just let it exist, like an old coat you keep in the back of your closet not to wear, just to remind yourself how far you've grown since it fit. A few days later, Naomi and I are on a call, one of those late ones that happen because you both can't sleep, but neither wants to admit it. She's curled up on her couch. I'm on my balcony, listening to the city breathe. Ever think about what would have happened if we stayed together? I ask. She pauses. I can hear her shifting, maybe pulling a blanket closer. Maybe buying time. All the time, she says. But then I remember, we weren't kind to ourselves. We tried to be kind to each other, but we forgot we were in the picture too. That hits. Because it's true. We weren't toxic, not in the way movies make it seem. We were just slowly eroding, wearing each other down with expectations we never spoke aloud. She needed gentleness. I needed clarity. We gave each other neither. Thinking love was enough. I would have ruined your poetry, she says, half laughing. But I would have eaten all your labeled leftovers. I say back. We're quiet for a long time after that. The kind of silence that feels full instead of empty. I think about telling her I saved a text, the one about still looking at her when she's not looking, but I don't. Instead, I ask, are you happy, she says. I'm learning how to be, and that, I think, is enough. We hang up without a goodbye, just to talk soon. It feels right, clean, like closing a window. Not slamming a door. I sit in my kitchen, just for myself. Not loud, for sure. Because someone once loved that sound. And maybe, even now, part of me hopes for it too. It's strange how a single phrase can sit with you for days. I'm learning how to be. I keep repeating it in my head like a lyric from a song I don't remember downloading. I whisper it while brushing my teeth, muttering under my because maybe for the first time, I get it. You don't arrive at happy. You inch your way there. Some days, you backslide. Some days, you crawl forward on your elbows. Some days, you just lie still and breathe. And that counts. 2. Naomi and I don't talk every day. It's not like we've slipped back into old patterns. But something softer lives between us now. Like 2 planets orbiting the same sun. No longer crashing into each other just to feel close. Last week, she sent me a photo of her new cat. It's orange. She named him Bagel. I replied with a blurry picture of the grilled cheese I'd made, burned perfectly on one side. A tribute, I said, to your love of symmetry and my total lack of it. She replied with a heart emoji, just one. Funny how that used to confuse me. A heart felt like a promise. Now, it just feels like warmth. Like, I see you. I'm glad you exist. I've started writing again. Not for her. Not even about her, really. But because I can. Because those stories I used to bury in the folders labeled unsent now feel like they deserve sunlight. One poem is about a guy in a diner who keeps ordering coffee just to delay going home. Another is about a woman who collects things people leave behind: scarves, notebooks, voicemail passwords. They're all really about me, of course. But aren't they always tonight? I clean the living room. I rearrange the books. I even find that old candle Naomi gave me for my birthday, the year everything fell apart. It's lavender, still unopened. I light it. It smells like her laugh used to. Bright, but not overpowering. I sit down, sip tea, and text her one line. Do you think we did the best we could? Back then? She replies a minute later, I think we did what we knew. And now we know more. It's not profound, but it lands deep. Because that's the thing about regret. It doesn't disappear. It just softens. It becomes something you carry instead of something that carries you. That night, I scroll back through our message thread, past the jokes, past the check-ins, past the silence. And there it is, the last text she sent before she walked away all those years ago. Please don't hate me for needing space. And I never replied, not because I hated her, but because, back then, I didn't know how to love someone without holding on too tight. Now I type, I didn't hate you. I just didn't know how to let go. I hit send. Then I turn off the phone to let it buzz on its own. I sit in the quiet. And for once, the quiet doesn't feel like punishment. It feels like peace. A week passes, then 2. She doesn't reply to that message. And weirdly, I don't panic. I don't overthink it. I don't replay the moment I sent it. I don't scroll back through our thread at 3 a.m. wondering if I used the wrong words. I just let it be. It's not detachment. It's acceptance. Naomi and I spent years in a push and pull rhythm. Closeness wrapped in avoidance. Love buried under logistics. Care disguised as teasing. That kind of relationship doesn't disappear with one text, one apology, one moment of clarity. It dissolves slowly. Or maybe it just reshapes itself into something gentler. One morning, while washing dishes, I hum. I don't notice at first, but then I stop and realize my chest feels light. I haven't felt that in years. The hum is some random tune from a coffee commercial. I think, but still, I'm humming. My phone dings. A message from Naomi. I've been thinking about that last message. I didn't reply because I didn't know how, but I'm glad you said it. And I smile. Not a big, cinematic smile. Just a little one. The kind that finds its way to your face before you realize it's there. I reply with no need to say anything. Just glad you read it. She sends a yellow heart emoji. And you know what? That feels like enough. I still send hearts to people I love, to people I miss, sometimes even to myself. When I text myself reminders like drink water or don't spiral over laundry. I used to think hearts were declarations. Now I think they're more like breadcrumbs, little signs that you were here, that you felt something, that you dared to care, even when you couldn't say it out loud. I go back to that poem. I never finished the one about the woman collecting forgotten things. I rewrite the ending. Instead of hoarding what others leave behind, she builds a home from it, a quilt of goodbye notes, expired coupons, tiny hearts, a home not a loss, but a memory. She lights a candle, opens the window, and whispers into the wind, I kept it all safe, even the things you meant to forget. I hit save, and I send it to Naomi. She replies with 3 words, I remember too. And that more than anything feels like healing. It's past midnight now. The kind of quiet where you can hear your own thoughts rearranging themselves. The hum of the fridge in the kitchen. The creak of the house settling into itself. That faint buzz in your ears. Not noise, just stillness. I sit here with a half-drunk cup of tea. It's gone cold, but I hold it anyway, cupping the warmth that's no longer there, like it might come back. I think about how long I held on to things I couldn't name, words I never said out loud, feelings I wrapped in parentheses, love I tucked behind punctuation. There's something strangely tender about not being answered. Sometimes silence isn't rejection. Sometimes it's the only honest reply someone can give. I used to think closure meant a door closing, a final sentence, a clear, clean ending. But now I think it's softer than that. Maybe closure is the quiet understanding that you meant it. That even if they never said anything back, your love didn't vanish. It just lived quietly somewhere between the lines, in a heart emoji, in a half-finished poem, in a message read at 3:17 a.m., under covers, just before someone falls asleep. So if you're listening now, in your own version of this story, with your own unsent texts and unsaid words, just know the heart you sent mattered, even if it confused them, even if they didn't reply, even if it was red when it should have been yellow. You tried, and that counts for something. All right? That's enough for tonight. I'll leave the porch light on in case any of those old feelings decide to visit. Thanks for keeping me company